Hello, and welcome to another tutorial for Unity character customization. In this tutorial, I'll be demonstrating the new functionality that's coming with character customization version 1.4. I'll be going over the new aspects of it, and I'll be demonstrating this by setting up the Furry S3 The Pirates characters from Quang Phan. This tutorial will serve as a way to set up other female characters like the Furry S2 and other female characters from Quang Phan, and it'll be a great opportunity to go over render pipelines, input, events, and any other hurdles that you might encounter, as well as going over renders, standard renders, and renders that exist within the bones. So the first thing we'll want to do is create a new Unity project, and we will use Unity 2020-3.8 F1. As long as the version that you're using is new enough to support the particular character you need, and most likely character customization, since character customization is working since as early as the 2018 version, compatible with all newer ones. But for high definition render pipeline, you'll want a newer version of Unity, and in this particular case, this character works best with a high definition render pipeline. So that's what we would like to use. And the first thing I did is I imported Furry S3 into this new project. This is a high definition render pipeline project. Now, you might notice that the character looks off initially, distortions, and just looks different. And this is because of shader related things with versioning of the high definition render pipeline. And so to address it, what Quang Phan has done is provided Dawn Shader version 2. This upgrade is free for people who already own Quang Phan characters, so you can go ahead and get it free from the Unity Assets Store and import that into your project. There's a tutorial that he shows on how to do it, but essentially all you need to do is over in Unity you will have a shaders folder under your particular character, and you want to delete that, and then when you import the Dawn Shader package you will get the new renders, the new shaders that you can use with a high definition render pipeline. Now, there is one thing that I had to do differently from those tutorials, and that is these renders have different names. Unity doesn't automatically detect and reference these ones. So what happens is the materials in the scene don't know what to use. And so a lot of them were still confused by what shader to reference. So I had to go inside each of these materials, inside the materials folder, and I had to specify the Dawn Shader HDRP version 2 skin HDRP, or hair HDRP, or clothing HDRP, or eyes HDRP, or eyelid HDRP, eye tier HDRP. So you have to go through and do those manually if you are in the same situation as I am. This may have been addressed in newer versions of Unity, newer package upgrades. As always, you want to verify that with the particular character creator and the character you're using. But once you've done that, you will see that the characters properly show up and look correctly. Now, the other thing you might encounter is you might get an error in your console with input, and this is because the samples scripts that Quang Phan has are using the older Unity input system, and Unity has a new input system. And what happens is in the settings, if you go into build settings and you go inside player settings, and over in player settings you can go inside player, and then you'll find input, active input handling right here, and I've set that to both. Now it might only be the new one, in which case it's not supporting the old one and the system doesn't know what to do. Again, newer versions of Unity may have addressed this, but if you encounter an input error that's preventing you from being able to move the character and test the character, and you can go in here and set the input system to both, and that should address that error. Now, the first thing we need to do, we'll go inside this overview scene that's provided by Quang Phan, and we'll hit play just to make sure that the character is, behaving accordingly. Moves around, animates, everything seems fine. Now that we've verified that the character is indeed okay, we can go and close the furry folder. And the next thing that we want to do is, if you are doing your own project, ideally you would be doing this in a separate project, but if you have any custom changes or anything you're doing, you want to make sure that you back that up. You want to back that up, especially if you're also migrating over from version 1.3 of character customization to version 1.4, because I'm introducing some new variables, some modifications to classes, and you might not be able to serialize and save quite the same way. So just to make sure that your system is not modified in an undesirable way, you want to have a backup. So go ahead and make a backup of that. Now over here I have character customization version 1.4. At the time of this recording, that version might not be available to you yet because it's still going through the approval process of the Unity Asset Store. Eventually you will see it. But the majority of this tutorial will work with character customization version 1.3 and older, and I will point out the new additions that are enhancing the flow and setup, but you can still set up the character to the extent it's needed with an older version of character customization. Now that we have character customization inside of our project, the first thing we want to do is make sure that character customization works on its own, similarly to what we did with the character. So we'll take these 4 scenes, game, gender, male, female. We'll drag them over into build settings. We don't need the sample scene here if that happens to be there, so we can remove that. Now we can go over inside of the game scene. We'll switch over to it. Now you'll notice that character customization is using the built-in render pipeline, and that's because most of the assets are using that. They're not using HDRP. Character customization doesn't care about render pipeline you have, but because of the way the scenes are set up, you'll notice that materials look off and everything. But this doesn't matter. We're just verifying that the system runs. So what we'll do is we'll hit play. Now that we're hitting play, I might have had an old save here that you'll see Unity Chan popping up. So we'll quickly customize, delete, and we'll reload. So what you will see is no character at all because there was no save to begin with. We'll go customize, we'll select female. Now what you'll notice is this is different in version 1.4 from version 1.3. Initially Unity Chan had her face on by default, and this is because the face renders were inside the bones, so they weren't getting instantiated or destroyed the way other renders for outfit pieces were. And so in order to demonstrate her fully visible, I had her face on at all times. Now instead that face is turned off. We have a new face outfit that we can add on, as well as her hair and her body and her feet. Again, everything looks off, and this is because of the camera, the lighting, everything in HDRP, and we will change that, so don't mind the pink. But as we can see, we've made modifications and we hit play and she is still there. So now what we can do is we can update our scene to actually be HDRP, and also Unity Chan and Kyle the Robot are not HDRP, so their own materials will be off just like the material for this non-HDRP floor. So what we can do is we can take a sample scene right here and we can save this as our new game scene. We'll take the previous game scene, we'll rename it to old as I have in previous tutorials. Gender can stay the same, and for example we can rename the female scene, since we'll be demonstrating the female character today, and we'll rename that to old as well. So now we'll go inside this sample scene, we'll go hit save, we'll go into character customization, the system, the scenes, we'll take our game, and we'll get rid of this old. So what we're essentially doing is we're renaming the sample scene, creating a copy of the sample scene and calling it character customization 01 game. Now the scene name is important for the demo purposes, but you can go and modify the scene names to whatever you want your main game scene to be, and so on and so forth. But we just want something that renders nicely. Now over in the old game, we want to copy a few things over. So we don't care about the camera, ground, event system. We want the event system, we want the canvas, and we want the spawning. We will copy these over. Also, let's take note of the position of the camera, 0, 1, -2. And that's the position we will want. So now coming into the new game scene, we don't want to modify the old one. We will paste in the event system, like I mentioned, the canvas with all the customization goodies, and the spawning, which we will need to spawn our characters later on. Now, if we find our camera, we have a main camera over here, and we will set it to 1, -2, just so that it's similarly positioned as our demo for character customization. Now we can hit save on here. There's one other thing you'll notice, and that is that the event system for the UI has changed as well. And so if you were to try to interact with the buttons right now, they're not going to work. And that's because wherever you have an event system in the scene, you want to replace with the input system uInput module. So you hit that button, and now the error component is updated. It's not an error anymore. We'll hit save, and when you do that for the other scenes, the male, the female scene, the gender select. So now this is essentially ready. What we need to do next is we need to create the appropriate character base for our furry character instead of Unity-chan. And we will also need to create pieces and then output scriptable objects. So let's start with the base, the very first step. In order to create a base, we need to establish what character we want to use as our source. So let's open up Furry, the Furry folder. We can close this materials. Instead we'll go into prefabs, characters, and here we have source meshes. Source meshes is a nice one to use because it's got all of the different clothing typically that Quang Phan demonstrates on a single character. So if we try to expand it, as you can see, she's got basically everything equipped and all on top of each other. So what we can do is we can return to our sample scene because we won't be modifying the changes in there. We'll drag over the source into it. There's our source character. Now we're going to unpack it. Prefab, unpack completely. And so we'll be using this as a reference for building the base. We'll go into character customization, prefab generator. It'll open up a window like this. In here, we will take the Furry S3 source mesh. That's our full character. And for the root, we need to find, it's usually called root, but you will see that it's the parent containing all of the bones. Now it's also important to turn this flag off because we're dealing with a female character. And essentially, most of everything else can stay intact. There can be custom components in here. You can leave them alone as long as they work. If something interferes, you can take that particular component off and try again. But in this case, all of that should be fine. Now, when we're going to generate everything, it's going to go inside character customization, and there's a generated assets folder right over here. So when we create something like a base, we're going to generate the base character. Now, it created this base. What you'll notice with the base is similar to Unity-chan. I'm just going to drag it over here. And if we hide the source for a moment, this is our base now. Now the base for this character has skin mesh renders that are inside the bones. And the system doesn't handle this because we need our bones to be unchanged and all of our render objects are instantiated and created outside of the bones. So like before with Unity-chan, we would just hide this and we would not use these particular hat or hair. Instead, we use different ones that are designed by an artist outside of the bones. In this case, we still want to do the same thing. We will want to hide those. So I'm going to take a moment to... Let's also emphasize the other thing we see in here. There is no controller specified in the animator, and we've removed all the other components except for the animator component, and we've added a character base component. That's what that generate base character is doing. Removing all the extra renders, only keeping the root, adding an animator, making sure there is an animator, and adding a character builder with the appropriate enum, male or female, that has been set by this is male on or off. Now additionally, in version 1.4, there is a root variable that will hold a reference to our root so that character builder has it for further uses, optimizations, and it's just convenient to have down the line. We'll take a moment and dock this to use later. Now we can delete this character builder female. We'll go inside the prefab. This is the one that we generated. Outside of the scene, we'll inspect the thing itself. Now, what you'll notice is immediately you have things like this hat, and there's bones associated with the hat, which is why the artist went and put the hat in the bones. So that's typically the reasoning for it. Now there's a skin mesh render on this feather, and what you want to do is you want to make sure you're not turning off the actual object. So you want to keep that active in the scene and in the prefab, but you want to turn off the skin mesh renders. Sometimes there will be mesh renders instead of skin mesh renders. You still want to disable that, the particular component. Moving on to the hat, same thing, skin mesh render. No skin mesh renders here. Now here we have physics for the hair. Just quickly run through all of these and check to see if there are any renders. There's another render here. This is for the hair. S3 hair. This is more bones related to the hair. No components there. Those are just transforms. Another skin mesh render for what looks like kind of a bandana, or maybe the skin of the scalp. Anyway, we're turning that off too. And then more hair, different layers of hair. This is just bone, another mesh render. Notice there's a lot of mesh renders, and you can go in and you can, if you know there's a lot of mesh renders, you can go in and select them all and turn all of them off, right? So now that we've gone through all of those, I believe that should be all of it, with the exception of this eye patch cover too. So we'll turn that off as well. Now, there is one more thing you want to do while we're inside the prefab, and that is specify a controller so that we actually animate. Now there are two examples, a male and female. Since this is a female character, we'll use the example animator controller female. And we can exit the prefab. So now that that's done, we're still in the sample scene, and we have our initial source, which we used to create the base. With our base done, what we want to do is we want to put that into our prefab folder. So we'll close resources for a moment, open prefabs. We had a character builder female. This was for Unity Chen. We'll rename this one to old. It's important that we stop using this one because we want to use this new one for the Furry Pirate. Now we can drag it into here just so that we don't have it in generated assets and we have it in prefabs. We'll be referencing this new one in our spawners. But for now, we'll leave it alone. We're done with the base for now. Instead, we'll use this opportunity to generate pieces. So like before, oh, the editor is getting a little excited there with all the windows. So we'll go back to character customization. If at any point you close the window or anything, you can go and open up Prefab Generator one more time. So now that we still have that source in our scene, we want to reference it one more time, only because it's closed. If you never closed it, you would still have the same reference for it and the root. And remember, this was ismail off. Now we want to generate pieces. When generating pieces, the pieces do not need an animator component. They don't need a rigid body. So what we can do on top of the source mesh is remove the rigid body, remove the capsule collider, remove the animator, and remove the physics bone. We don't need any of that, because what we're going to do is we're going to be creating pieces out of the renders outside of the root. So it's going to be these body separates, boots, head separate, neck, pant, shirt, ABC, and the pistols. Now the renders in the root, I've turned those off in the base. We'll get back to those later. So while we're creating pieces with all of these, we're going to do that by doing generate pieces. And this could take a few seconds depending on how many pieces there are. So, just be patient, let it finish. And when it's done, you will see that it generated all of them, and there's quite a substantial amount of them, and they're all in generated assets. Now, to have better organization, we can create a new folder we'll call Pirate Pieces. I just want to drag this over even above, well, yeah, it didn't really matter where. Now we'll select all of these pieces with the exception of that generated assets text file, and we'll drag them over into Pirate Pieces. We just want to keep our generated assets folder clean so that when we're generating new things, we see them and can differentiate when we're generating one thing versus another thing. So Pirate Pieces, and if we look inside Pirate Pieces, for example, these boots, let's open it up for a moment. So what constitutes a piece? Well, a piece is going to have the root, and the root is going to be the same to have a reference to all the bones and then remap them as you instantiate. Then it's going to have a few extra things here. These are empty transforms that it doesn't need to have, and these can actually be deleted. Because they don't have any skin mesh renders, they don't mean anything when it comes to the boots. This is just because the generation process isn't perfect when handling lots of sub-children of transforms. And then there's the boot. Again, this boot top transform is also not important. What really matters here is this boots one with the skin mesh render. This is what is going to show us the boots when we're adding it and removing it. And then of course the root. So we can do nothing, but just to show how we can clean this up, I'm going to demonstrate with these particular boots that if we were to take and delete this empty transform boots body separates, and if we were to take and delete all of these that are all empty transforms too, we can delete these as well. And this WP-EXP, we can delete this as well. And for boots, we can actually take these boots and reposition them. Now, it's very important that we do not modify the root. We cannot rename it. We cannot modify the children, their order. That stuff cannot change. But when it comes to these renders that are added or removed, it's associated with this particular outfit piece. And so that's not really important. So this boots that was apparent was just an extra transform, and we can delete it, only leaving the root and this boots one with the skin mesh render. So now we have a very clean boots one prefab, and we can go through and clean out our pieces similarly to be more performant, to have fewer children, just so that there's less confusion. And it's just the skin mesh renders, one or multiple, depending on how the pieces are, and of course the untouched root bones. Those are very important to leave alone. Now, we have all these pieces, and we'll be able to use them, put them on, and all that great stuff. So the next thing we need to do is we need to update our base reference in the spawners. So let's take a moment to return to our scenes, and I might be jumping all over the place a little bit here, but that's because I'm doing this on the fly just to demonstrate it. You know, if there's any obstacles that I encounter, I'm solving them right in front of you. So this is really useful for the kind of experience that a person using character customization can expect. So we don't need generating anymore, so we can close this window. We don't need this source mesh anymore, so we can delete it. And the sample scene doesn't need to be kept because these changes are not important. So back over in the character customization system, we'll go into the game. Don't save. Now over here in spawning, you'll notice it's referencing the old female. This is Unity Chan. Now we drag in the new one. Now it's going to be our furry base, the one that we made, the one with the hidden, not enabled renders in the bones, right? So then we can hit save. Now let's go over and rename or we can go into our gender scene. I suppose we should have renamed it. Yes. Let's rename our gender scene to old. We'll reload it. And the gender scene has the event system, which needs to be replaced. So we'll replace that. And now we'll hit save as. We'll go into character customization, the system, the scenes, and gender. And we'll take off the old. So essentially, we want to back up the scenes just in case. You don't have to do this, but it's good practice just to make sure everything works before deleting the old stuff. So hit save. So all we did here was fix the event system, and you might not need to do it, or if you create an event system within the new version of Unity, then you don't even need to worry about that. But that's how you would upgrade the event system. If you see the UI is not working for whatever reason, double check your event system. You probably aren't getting the events, and that's why the UI is not responding. So now the gender is done. There's no spawning here, so there's no further change needed there. Now let's go over into the female old scene, and the female old scene has all of this lighting stuff because it's an old non-HDRP scene. So what we'll do instead is similar. We'll copy the event, the canvas, and the spawning. So right click, copy these objects. Now we'll go over into our sample scene, the beautiful HDRP sample. We will paste those components again. And over in here in spawning, remember we want to be referencing our female, not the old female, so with the furry female base. Now that we have that done, let's save this sample scene as our character customization, system, scenes, female, but not old. This is female. One thing I forgot here is, again, the event system. Remember to replace it with the input system and hit save one more time. Now there's another thing we want to double check. It's in the gender over here. Does the camera have anything? Does the event system have, the canvas have anything? I believe we have everything that we need. In case we don't, we will double check. So I was just checking to make sure there's nothing else I may have missed in the gender scene. I thought there was something driving the camera. The camera position is 1, -10. We should probably set that for the new female scene. So let's do that. We don't need to save the old one. In here, let's find the camera, and we will go 1, -10 to position the camera, hit save. We're good with the female scene. We're good with the female base. If you want to set up a male character, you will do similar things in the male scene and male base. For now, we're just dealing with a female character. So the next thing we want to do is we want to create outfit scriptable objects or edit our existing outfit scriptable objects. So those are over in resources. And there's already outfit models female. There's a hair, a body, shirt, 1, 2, legs, and face. These are all Unity Chen. Now what you'll notice is Unity Chen doesn't use, her face doesn't use outfit pieces. If you look at her hair has different outfit pieces. And this was the standard 1.3 and prior version. Same with her shirt. It's using the Wagi shirt piece. Now, starting with version 1.4, character customization allows you to, instead of outfit pieces or together with, also specify render object names. These are renders, whether the skin mesh renders or mesh renders, that are inside your root bones, similar to those like the pirate hat or the pirate eye patch for furry. In the case of Unity Chen, it's her face related renders for her face, her eyes, her eyelashes, and so that's what these are. By specifying their name, we can then toggle those on and off, those renders inside of the bones, instead of instantiating and destroying without modifying the bones, right? And so that's what this functionality is. Now there's also a checkbox here that says check outside root. And if you do that, it's going to check these names not just inside of the root, but all the children of the character builder. And the only reason you would want that is if, instead of instantiating and destroying pieces even outside of the root, you wanted to enable and disable all of them. If you were to make a character that had the skin mesh renders always there and just turning on and off for whatever reason, typically you don't really want that. You still want to be instantiating and destroying objects using the outfit pieces the old way. But these are just other things you can do. So I just wanted to go over that briefly. But what we want to do is we want to modify these to suit our pirate pieces. So let's look at our pirate pieces and see what we have. We have boots, the body. Some of these look like they might be, I'm wondering if they're rendering correctly or if that's just the lighting. I believe that's probably skin color, not plain white, but we'll see when it instantiates. This looks really white. The skin color, maybe the skin is not using the correct shader. We'll worry about that. The coat, yeah, the coat also looks very white. But let's see some of the hands. If there's any problems with that, we'll take a look. Anyway, these are all the various things we can do. We have pants. We have a shirt. I'm just going through all of these to see what our options are. Top body. If we look inside top body for a moment here. Dawn skin shader. Why does that look wrong? I'll need to investigate, but for the time being, let's proceed. So what we'll do is we will go ahead and edit the pieces. So for the hair, we'll actually take that opportunity to look inside the bones, but in the meantime, let's see if we can get shirt A. Shirt 1, we will call it shirt A. You can create icons, you can generate ones, but ideally an artist on your team would make the correct ones. We'll keep all the categories and everything the same, and we're just modifying the pieces to new ones. Now it's important that if there's multiple pieces, like if there were 3 pieces here, and for some reason these were empty, like that would not work, right? Like you can't just have none game object here, right? So if I add something, I need to either populate all of these or adjust the length appropriately so that I don't have any null references. So that's going to be the shirt. shirt 2, we can specify shirt B. Let's see what that looks like. Is that different? Yeah, there is some variation in shirt B. We're just finding pieces that might be suitable. And then for legs, let's see what we can use for legs. Pants would be great for legs. So let's find our pants and the pirate pieces. From Chan legs, we'll call it pants. Oh, that went into caps lock. And then for the face, so the face is using the render object names, and instead our pirate face should be over here, this head. Yeah, so we'll specify the head. The head appears to have a problem with, so again we want to create an outfit piece. We want to set the head, and we'll set this list to 0 because our face is not in the bones. So now that that's taken care of, we did the leg, the face, which is not Chan. It's not a Chan face. It's head of the pirate girl. Leg, shirt, body. This isn't Chan body. This is just body. This is just renaming it for how it's going to appear in the UI. So that's not particularly important. You can name it whatever you want. Body, top body. Most likely you want this top body. I'll have to figure out what's wrong with the render on that material. Top body. Oh no, that's not, nope, do not modify that. That was a silly thing. We're not touching male. What I was trying to do is I was trying to find this body. Yes. So we're going to set that to 1. And we're going to give that top body. I named it to body. There we go. Okay. And last but not least, we have hair. And our hair is going to be 0. And our hair is actually going to use render object names. So we'll give it 1. Now let's look into our female base one more time. And if we go skinned mesh renderer, we can see that there was the feather, the pirate hat, the hair S3. Now this is actually a problem because they're called the same. They need to be distinct. So in this system, what'll happen is it'll toggle the first. So that's something that can be adjusted in subsequent versions. Ideally, all names need to be distinct. Back over in our... Oh, and I should have turned that back off. I didn't. Let's go back into the female. Skinned mesh renderer. Just searching by component. I never turned that mesh render back off. All I wanted to do was copy that name. Now, over in here, we're going to paste it. Now, it's very important, case sensitive, absolutely the same, no spaces, no nothing. You have to copy a one-to-one. And now, this will enable or disable that hair without instantiating or destroying it and modifying the bones. So, we've set up the pieces. Now, if we go into character customization, the female matrix, we want to turn this off because there is no collisions initially. Click away, click back. We haven't established any collisions. And any other changes that might need to be done. So this isn't Chan hair, this is just hair. Body, shirt A, shirt B, and pants, and head, and we can rename this to head, since that's more appropriate. Again, this is not going to be visible to the user. This is just how we name it. Now, this name here is going to be anyway. So now we should be more or less set. If we go over into our game scene, let's try and see what happens when we try to edit this character. So we'll hit play over in our game scene. Oh, there's by default the sample scene has mouse controlling. We don't want that. That's going to interfere with stuff. So let's go into our camera. This is just a sample scene from Unity, so we can take this look at mouse, turn this off. This whole player controller thing, we don't need it. Let's go and right click and prefabs, unpack completely, take the camera out. We don't need this controller. Forget all that, right? So we just got the camera and it doesn't need this look at. So now we hit save. Now let's go over into our female scene, because it was derived from the sample scene too, so it suffers the same exact problems going to this player controller FPS. This is only specific to the sample scene. If you just made a brand new scene, you wouldn't have this. Unpack completely, pull out the main camera, get rid of this controller stuff that is not needed, and this look at mouse. These are all just examples. Back into game. Let's hit play. Now it might have had some saving back when I was testing Unity Chan. It's pulling those same components, so he's trying to dress those up. We'll go customize, and of course we didn't add the new scenes. So because we have game, gender, male, female instead of the old ones, let's go in here. We can delete these, and instead we're going to go game, gender, male, female. Now the male is the old one, but we're not using it. We'll edit it when we need to. Now let's hit save, or let's hit play. Okay, so here we go. We go customize character. Let's go and delete this, right? Because this was the old Unity Chan saving. So here we are. We start off. It's blank. We have nothing. Fresh save. Fresh everything. We'll go select gender. We'll go female. Now over here, you don't see anything. If we inspect what is going on inside, you see there's a character builder with the root, nothing else, and an outfit controller. Now you can see the bones are animating. They're already animating, and they should be, right? If you just look at that and inspect it, because of this example animator controller. Now, what happens if we add the hair? Well, the hair just showed up. Now the character doesn't appear to be in the appropriate location. The character appears to be underground. That's because the spawner is underground. Let's take a moment to see where this character really is relative to our world. There she is. So we were spawning our character underground. Another modification, just as we're taking a look. So first of all, we don't need props here. Let's hide that. And the character gets spawned based on what the spawner's position is. So if you want to move the spawner up, we'll hit save. Same with the female scene. Let's go in here real quick. We want to hide this prop because it's going to be obstructing us. And maybe 5 is too high, but we'll just position her on 5 on the y-axis for now. Back in the game, let's hit play, see what's going on. Now again, we don't see anything because I never saved. I was still experimenting. Select. And now where is she? Looks like maybe she might be a little bit too high. No, she's still spawning. That's odd. The female scene spawner is positioned at 0, 0, 0. Maybe it didn't save. Maybe I modified the wrong scene. I might have modified the old. No. Strange. Let's go over here. Maybe it didn't save. We'll go into 5. We'll hit save. Okay. Game. Spawner position 0, 5, 0. Female. Spawner position 0, 5, 0. Sorry about that hiccup. Let's try one more time. Game scene. Select female hair. Okay, so there it is. The camera is awfully far away because it was supposed to be 0, 0, -10. What was the camera? Because I repositioned the camera because it was relative to... Alright, so we're making a few more adjustments. Let's go to old, camera position, 1, -2. Let's copy this position. Go into the female, the new female scene camera, and we will paste position, which actually appears to be a little below. Okay, so maybe the position needs to be more 5-ish. It also seems to be, our rotation seems to be wrong, right? Yeah, the rotation 0, 0, 0. Okay, now let's go over into the old game scene, find our camera 0, 1, -2, 0, 0, 0. Copy position and go into our game scene. This is because that camera was a child of, yes, you see it's all like twisted all wrong. Paste position and that rotation, and it seems like I need to be somewhere like 5 up because everything seems to be offset. Alright, let's try one more time. This is minor adjustments, you know, whatever your scene positioning and stuff is, that's what you'll do. Okay, so we're still spawning, we're just now looking at it. What is going on? Alright, so the character might just be too high. Not the character spawning, but if the female at 5 is too high, yeah, something like maybe 4 is where we want her to be. So let's put spawning at 4 both in the game scene, and we're going to save that, and we're going to put spawning at 4. So that's what happens when I'm doing it on the fly. See, I'm making adjustments, so you know, making sure it's working. So here we go. So now we've shown and hidden. So what I want to demonstrate here is this new functionality of 1.4 where nothing is being instantiated. You see, there's no other output pieces created or destroyed because this hair is in the root. Now if we look inside the root, pelvis, skin, spine, pelvis, spine, 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 go inside the neck, go inside the head. In fact, we can go skinned mesh renderer, and we can find hair S3, which is this one. And you can see what's happening is the skin mesh render is being turned on or off. And there's the hair. Now with the face, there's her head. And you might be wondering, oh no, that's wrong. No, that's because that's just as far as the hair is going for this particular model. That is not actually an issue with the positioning. It's animating correctly. What happens is she's got a pirate hat, right, which is going to go above that, and it's going to cover. If you look at the source model, that's what's going on there. So now we added her face, which, by the way, I was concerned about the render references and materials, but it just looked white in the preview. It's totally fine. Oops, that should not have, I'm going to have to, so that body's not going to work because that body is actually not clothed at all, so we'll have to modify that. Or we can put this on, and then we can put this body on, because otherwise it's exposing too much, more than what we need. Let's take a moment to show. This is shirt. This is a different shirt. Notice how this shirt doesn't have shoulders. This one has shoulders. This one doesn't have shoulders. These are two different shirts, right? Let's put that on, and let's go into legs, and we'll add her legs. So now, as you can see, she's there. We can hit save. We can hit done. And she's animating and everything. There's a lot of problems because she's missing a lot of clothing. So let's go ahead and address that. And what we'll do is we'll add a few more outfit pieces. So the first thing we'll do is we will add, but we'll go create scriptable object, outfit scriptable object. We'll call it outfit 6 hat. Now, the pirate hat, if we recall, over in our female skinned mesh renderer, we have pirate hat 01. That's the name of this object, and fortunately for us, it is unique, unlike the Hair S3, which had two variants, two different ones. So, over in this hat, we'll call it hat. We can give it an icon. It doesn't really matter what it is. It may as well be Kyle's head because it's just whatever. The category for it, we'll do it F0, which is I believe the head category. What was over in the female categories. You can create more female categories. The head category. So the hat is part of the head. It makes sense for it to be an F1. Now there's no outfit pieces because the hat is in the root bones, again, 1.4 functionality. And so what we'll do in here is we will instead specify the hat name here. And now we added the hat. Next, let's add her coat. She's got a nice fancy coat. So we'll go create scriptable object, outfit scriptable object. We'll call it outfit 7 coat. By the way, I like to do code 01, and I'll rename this one to hat 01 because you might have multiple hats, multiple coats. Making sure that I didn't miss anything there. Okay, so we'll call this one coat. We'll give it Kyle Spikes, for example. Now, I believe F2, and you can rename these however you want. F2 is body, which is appropriate for the coat. We'll call it outfit category female 1 body. So now the coat is actually an outfit piece. So we'll increase this list count here. And remember, back over in our pirate pieces, let me find that lovely coat. Great coat A. Okay, so we added the coat, and there's one more thing that she's desperately in need of, and that's some shoes. So let's give this lady some nice shoes. Outfit scriptable object, outfit 8 shoes 01. You can call them whatever you want. This is how I like to organize it. Call it shoes. We'll call it boots. We can go for the Kyle boot icon. We'll call it F2, which is probably feet or legs or whatever that category named was. It's also an outfit piece. And over down here, let's find our boots. I know I've seen them here somewhere. Boots 1. Yes. And these boots 1 are the ones that I simplified by removing at the very beginning and deleting all the other empty transforms and things that were needed. So we'll check out all of that. So now that we've created all of these, you might also notice over in character customization, female character matrix, now the matrix is updated with all these other things, the coat and the boots, the hat. Let's see how it is in action. Over in the game, we'll hit play. If everything is done correctly, it'll continue working. So now, because we saved it before, she has all these things. But if we go customize, now we have this hat option. And you'll see, remember how that hair looked really, really off. Losing my voice. That hair looked really off, but it's because it didn't want to clip, the way the artist made it, the artist didn't want to clip it into the hat. So that's why the hair doesn't extend higher. She looks much better with the hat on. And let's move over to the body. Now there was this coat, this one. Let's put on the coat, and there's her coat. And now her coat is animating nicely. I realize that she's in desperate need of hands too, but let's go over and give her some boots. So she's almost there. The only thing she needs is some hands and maybe some guns on top of that. We'll hit save and done for now. And there she is, animating all lovely in our scene. Let's go and make some more outfits. And it's very easy to make the outfits once you have the pieces and once everything is set up in the system. So let's go create scriptable object, outfit scriptable object, outfit 9, hands a 1. Now the hands is different because we don't want to put on one hand and then the other hand. We want the hands to be coming on and off at the same time. In fact, they should really always be on unless you're putting on gloves, right? Because if somebody doesn't have nothing, right? You're always going to have hands. So let's see, what can we do? I suppose this will be the icon. Category for this will be body, F1, and outfit pieces we'll put 2. And this is an example like you've seen in Unity Chan. She had multiple hair, multiple hair pieces. So now over here, we'll go and find her hand left and hand right. So now she should have hands. And we might as well give her her guns. Create scriptable object, outfit scriptable object, outfit 10, weapon a 1. Now for weapon, it's actually something that I want to caution you when making it, because typically in action-based games, the weapons aren't part of a character customization. Yes, they are visible and such, but they are handled by the combat system. And they are instantiated into the bone structure. They shouldn't be in the bone structure, although some artists make it that way. But weapons are actually instantiated at the time of equipping and unequipping the particular weapon for the purpose of that weapon's animation and so on and so forth. But in here, right, we're just looking at the aesthetics of the weapon and not all the other use cases and details. So we'll leave it at that. We'll call it gun. And again, this is the icon for it can be, I suppose this spiky thing. And the category for it, it's not head, it's not body, it's not feet. It might as well be body. We can make a new category. Actually, let's take this opportunity to create a new category. Take a moment, distract ourselves. Scriptable object, outfit, category, scriptable object. We'll call this outfit category F3. And we'll call this accessories. And accessories is going to be it's going to be visible. The sorting order is 10, 5, 0, 0. Yeah, I can go down there. A default object will be nothing. Target bone will be suppose we want to reference character spine. The target bone is used to zoom in, and for that we might as well have the zoom of 50. There. So we'll copy the same one as the body category. Everything else is the same. The sorting order should be 0. In fact, we can bump up this sorting order. Just the legs should be above the accessories. Set it to 2 or something. So now we have this new accessories category. Back over in weapon, we're going to select this new accessories F3 category. Just to show you how to make categories, you'll see it pop up later. And for outfit pieces, we'll give it an outfit piece. And let's go and find our, what is it, holster? No, that's where we use, do you want the gun? I mean, that sword looks pretty cool. Maybe we should give her a sword. You know what? Sword's cooler. Let's give her a sword. You can always, you can give her whatever you want. But I want to give her the sword. So we will, where is it? Sword, which one doesn't really matter. You can, again, similar to the hands, you can specify sword, both of the swords, and put both of them on. I'm just going to call it sword. I don't want to make her dual wield. I think one sword is plenty. She's going to make quick work of everyone with just a single sword. So that should be everything. Again, verifying that this is called correctly, referencing all the stuff correctly, nothing crazy going on here. Okay, let's hit play and go over everything that we just quickly edited. Some stuff might look off, and so what we'll do, because we've made modifications, we're going to go ahead and delete the save, and then we're going to go and play again. It's important to have a fresh save when testing stuff, because if you have an old save and you're adding all these scriptable objects, you can start messing around with the order of everything and cause problems. If you run into an error, you're not sure what's going on, delete your save with the delete save button, and without saving everything, restart and then try editing one more time. And again, that's quite useful. So now we added her hair, we added her her head, and we added her hat. That all seems to be working quite well. And, the hair can be added, removed. Excellent. Now we're gonna add her shirt and her body. Now there's also this coat, and you notice how the UI starts scrolling and expanding as we add more things. So we have this coat now. Lovely. It's got the kind of animation that Quang Phan has for his clothing, and then hands. And see how the hands are adding both at the same time? Because remember, her hands are two different outfit pieces, but they're referenced by a single outfit, so they both get added at the same time. So the hands are effectively a set. You can make a set if you wanted, for example, her shirt and pants to come on at the same time, or something, right? Maybe her eye patch and her hat. Excellent. Now we add the pants, and now we add the boots. And then for accessories, we're going to add the sword. We're going to hit save. We're going to hit done. Now we notice we have an error. Out of bounds exception. So I'm going to try to figure out which of these pieces is causing problems, because the reason we're getting an out of bounds exception isn't for any particular, that's a problem with the configuration, right? So we can go customize, we can delete, we can remove all. This remove all is a new button with version 1.4. When you remove, it's not saving, so when you remove all, you also want to save. In this case, you want to delete the save. Now, I'm just wondering if I go and only add this sword accessory and hit save and hit done, There's nothing wrong with the sword. Okay, so the sword is okay. What about the head? Let's avoid the hair and hat in case those are the issue because they're inside of other things. Maybe avoid the coat for a moment here too. I just want to build her up and see if there's any other issues with her. We needed the hands. Okay. So hit done. Okay. So as far as all of these components are concerned, they're all behaving fine. There's no errors. Let's go over back and customize. Let's look at body. Let's add this coat. Clear the console log. Hit save. Hit done. And her coat is fine as well. Let's go over into customize. Let's add her lovely hat. Hit save. Hit done. Now the hat's fine too. And if we add the hair, hit save, hit done, there are no more errors. So again, sometimes you'll encounter errors with things and they're not saving and running properly. And again, just delete the save, just restart, and it'll go away like it did. As you can see, if I hit run again right now, I should have her fully there. There she is, all ready to go. Look at her front. Make sure that there she's totally animating. We can customize her. Go into her body, take off her coat, add on her coat, take off her coat, hit save, hit done. She doesn't have her coat on. Stop playing, start playing. Doesn't have her coat on. Customize, go to the body, add back her coat, hit save, hit done. She's got her coat, turn off the game, run the game again, and her coat is back. So now everything is working as desired. The character is set up. So going over the notes, with version 1.4, we're introducing the ability to enable and disable renders. These are skin mesh renders and mesh renders inside of the root instead of instantiating and creating them the way we would with pieces outside of the root. So this is in rare cases like hat or hair that might appear in certain characters like Unity Chen and her face, or Furry S3 with her hair and her eye patch and her pirate hat, or if you look at Furry S3 by Quang Phan, there's also a character with hair inside of her bone structure, so that can be set up similar to this hair or hat. Now, one thing to note is because in Furry S3 the hair is in that character's root, and in Furry S3 her hair, hat, and such are in her bone structure. You have to pick one of those to become your base and then hide it. And because those bases are different, you can use all the different kind of swapping back and forth of pieces that you instantiate. But when it comes to the render in the bone, you're going to have to pick. So you're either going to get the pirate girl's hair and hat or Furry S3's hair, but between those hairs you will have to pick which base you want. So keep that in mind. That's kind of how the system is at the moment, but you should still have way more customization options with the system now, and you should be able to make so many different characters, make them in real time. Again, once you've modified your character and edited a particular unique one over here, this runtime instance, which is unique, the unique combination that you've created, you can then drag this out over into your assets folder, and you can call this NPCA. And if I take NPCA and I drag it in, there she is, NPCA, with a single sword. This is not the source, this is different. Now, obviously, in order to keep using her, you have to have all the source material, all the initial FBX data, the materials, the shaders, everything that this uses. But this unique character doesn't need to then be built up, because this is now prefab. Like, you can stop the game. The prefab is still there. You can use it for your NPC and whatever else you might want. And you can remove the character builder from it because you won't need that anymore. And you can stick whatever animator controller, whatever you want this NPC to do. So that's another thing you can do. It's not just limited to runtime editing of your characters. You can also use this system to create permanent variations. I covered that in another video, but just to remind people, if they're tuning in just for this particular video and getting a handle of the system. So I realized there's one more change I forgot to make. Currently, the camera doesn't zoom in, even though we had specified zooming, and that's because we're missing a component. So if we hit play, what we'll find is no matter which category we're in, the view is always the same. Now, you can, of course, script your own camera and your own solutions and zoom in and do all the fancy stuffs, including, fancy transition tweens and things like that. But if you want to use the existing functionality, what you need to do is we want to go inside our old female scene, and on the camera there's a component, character customization camera view. We're going to copy this component. We're going to go into our new female scene. No need to make any changes. And on this camera, we're going to right click anywhere on the other components, and we're going to go paste component as new. So now we're adding character customization camera view. And what this is going to do is it's going to find our appropriate references and zoom the camera's field of view accordingly. But there's another thing we need to do, and that's because we're using the names for Unity Chan bones. What I mean is, if we look at the female category, the category is a target bone name. Like, for example, character head 1. And if we look at the old Unity Chan prefab, there is a character 1 head. But if we look at the new female that is furry, she doesn't have a character 1 head bone because the bones are called something else. So we need to go inside the root, and we can find new names for what we want to be looking at. So inside the spine, we can go and find the neck, and we can find, for example, the head bone, which is just head. I mean, we want it to be unique so that we find the specific one. So let's see, head. Yeah, there's only the one head. So that'll do. Back over in our category, now instead of character head, we can call the target bone head. Now, back in here, we can see what else we can reference, because this, for example, needs a spine. So we can actually just reference one of these spines. It doesn't really matter which one. So we can go spine 01. Again, we want to make sure that that it is unique, and it is. So now we can go over here in the F1 category. Instead of character 1 spine, it's going to be spine 01. Now, what we're looking at here, legs. So back over here, we could see specify any one of the feet. So we can go with this IK foot root. We can try this one, and if it looks weird, we can always try a different one. Just find whichever bone you like. And last but not least, here we're referencing the character spine again, so we'll just copy this over into spine. And the zooming should still be the same, although you can play around with those values. And in this current version, we can save this scene. You're just gonna snap into the corresponding zoom, but you can go and animate the transition if you'd like. Let's return to our game scene. Let's hit play and see how that all works now. Now when we go customize, see how we're zoomed into her face, and then we can zoom out, and then we go into the legs. We could have specified one of the two legs if we wanted to. And then accessories is also the same as body, using the same zoom level and bone target. So that should do it for setting up Quang Phan characters and playing them in real time, editing them, making all the changes that you need. I hope you found this tutorial useful. I hope you enjoy using character customization. For more information, please check out the documentation, check out the other tutorial videos, and I'll catch you in the next video.